afternoon, Dan. Bit of a Northampton derby among the captains this time. What do you make of being up against your Saints teammate Courtney?
Yeah, it's I suppose a very proud moment for the club, really, in terms of both of us captaining, in a huge game on Saturday for England-Wales, and I think Courts would probably be the more relaxed of the two of us on Saturday afternoon, I'd imagine. His style would be a lot more laid back than mine, but a really special moment actually, in terms of, played with Courts for the last 4 years, and be really exciting on Saturday.
Well, he may be laid back off the field, who tell us, but what does he bring to them on the field?
I think the biggest thing I've noticed with Court over the last few years is he's got the ability to, when he speaks, people tend to listen. I think, and that's a really positive trait to have in a captain and a senior player. I think, you can have a lot of people who speak a lot of the time, but it can be white noise. But certainly from my experiences of playing with Courts, is when he has something to say, people sort of tend to tune in a little bit more closely and really focus in. So I think that's a really positive, and he's going to lead by example, isn't he? His game, a little bit similar to me, really. I'm not, neither of us probably change the way we play because of becoming captain. It's very much trying to lead by example and focus on doing our jobs as a player before perhaps thinking of the captaincy roles.
You might have a bit of Manu Tuolangi running down your channel. What do you make of England's selection of Tuolangi in the centre, and interestingly maybe sticking with Randall at scrum half? Well,
I think Manu was always going to play if he was fit and ready, wasn't he? In terms of what he provides to any team he plays, in terms of go forward, he allows most teams he plays in to get on the front foot, and as we all know, rugby's a lot easier when you're on the front foot rather than going backwards. So that's what Manu gives, and I think he's probably underrated for his ball playing ability as well, in terms of he's got some really nice touches as well. So he's an obvious threat, as he would be in any team you come up against him. But and I think with obviously Randall at 9, they're looking to play quite a high tempo game early doors. That's what he does really well with Bristol in particular, where he just picks the pace of the game up, so it doesn't let you sort of settle for a moment. And I would imagine they'd have, not many better players to come on if the game is tight or it needs sort of shutting down or whatever in Ben Youngs later. So so it's exciting from our end as well. It's it makes for a really exciting game with some big names back as well, in terms of from our end and from their end.
And talking of tight games, you've been on the losing side several times, but notably victorious back in 2015. How much do you take from you being a handful of players with winning experience at Twickenham, and how much do you remember that World Cup game? I think
it's difficult, isn't it? Because the team is so different now. Both teams are so different to when we won in 2015, and we haven't had that much success over the last couple of years, a couple of visits there in Twickenham. So we realise that it's a really difficult place to go and win. But I think what we've got in our group at the minute, especially a lot of players who perhaps sort of don't hold Twickenham in fear going to Twickenham, really, because they haven't had a huge amount of experience of it, and we're sort of going there as we'll go there as underdogs, with England being at home and in pretty good form as well. So it's positive that we've a few of us have managed to win at Twickenham, but we're also under no illusions that it's a very different squad. It's England are in a very different place, as are we, and it's about making sure that I think the biggest thing for us, Nick, is that we start well on Saturday, because the last couple of times that I've played England at Twickenham, we've been sort of 15-3, 15-6, or whatever, 20-10 down by half time, or within the first 20 minutes, and it's a really difficult task to claw England back, because they've always got the ability to pick up points and score points at will. So it's imperative that we start the game really well and take it to England, as opposed to being on the back foot and coughing up a few cheap points. And a word about Talupe Faletau's return. He's one of those with
2 international wins at Twickenham to his credit, and obviously knows the England players like yourself well from playing in the English system.
Yeah, well, look, Toby he's world class, isn't he? I think, you know, you're probably the two big names who are back from long-term injury in terms of Manu and Toby. They're two guys who, regardless of how much sort of game time they've had, regardless of what sort of form they've been in, and how much they've got, it's, you know, they're big game players, aren't they, and world class players. And if they're available and fit, you tend to put them in. So it's great to have him back, to have that sort of a bit more muscle as well, but also that ball playing ability that he brings to the side is crucial. So yeah, it's been really good having him back in camp this week. Finally,
from me, be nice to have a dry day at Twickenham on Saturday, wouldn't it, after the first couple of rounds?
Yeah, well, look, like I said, I think both teams are set up to play, aren't they, in terms of selection, and I'm hoping that, like I said, I think the weather looks okay for Twickenham on Saturday, so fingers crossed we can go, because I think 2 years ago we played there, I think, and it was you know, both teams threw it about a bit and it was end to end, so hopefully we can recreate that and score some tries on Saturday.
Good luck. Cheers, Dan.
Cheers, Egg.
Thanks, Nick. Mullin, sorry now, not Webb.
Oh, sorry. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Verity. Hi, Dan. Thanks for your time. Have you swapped texts with Corney? WhatsApps? What's the news?
I only earlier on in the week. I'm actually on the scrounge for a couple of tickets. It's funny when England Wales comes around, everyone comes out of the woodwork and wants a few tickets. So I'm trying to tap into, maybe he'd be able to get a few more than me. But I haven't spoke to him today since the team's been announced. I'm sure I'll touch base with him later on.
I'm sure they'll sort you out. Can you just talk about kicking at Twickenham? Are there any peculiarities in that stadium on that surface?
No, the surface, Nick, is always very good there. It's a really, you know, it's a firm track. It can swirl a little bit when you're in Twickenham, actually, when it comes in, and it can swirl around, not particularly in one direction. So it's not that easy in terms of judging it when it's swirling. But I mean, it's a great place to play, and there's not really too much to complain about in terms of conditions there. Hopefully, like I said, if we get a dry day there, then there'll be few excuses for both sides, I think.
And I don't expect you to open the book on your tactics, but in terms of kicking strategy, are you looking for line-outs, or do you want to keep it on the pitch, generally speaking? I
think, you know, what we've had success against England in terms of England's driving maul, and their set piece traditionally is always very, very strong. So whoever you play against, you want to limit their strengths, really. So if we can keep the number of driving mauls and set pieces they have to a minimum, then it gives us a good chance of taking, you know, a particular strength away from England. So we'll be looking, you know, we want to try and keep the ball in play quite high and back ourselves that way, as opposed to giving England a lot of set pieces and allowing them to get one of their strengths going.
Great, thanks, Dan. Good luck with the tickets.
Cheers, Nick. Thanks.
And we'll just close up the live section with Matt.
Hi Dan, just
hey,
two things from me really. Obviously some of the big team news that we've jumped on is Lewis's omission. Just wondered what sort of advice you would have for him, obviously dealing with this quite early in his career, may not have faced it much before.
Yeah.
Just wondered what sort of advice you have for him.
Yeah, look, it's never easy, is it, when selection doesn't quite go your way for one reason or another, but I think you look at, you know, probably the only people I can think of is probably someone like a Dan Carter or a Wilkins, who probably have never had to have this sort of, you know, this bit of advice or anything given to them over the years. And every one of us in the team here and in the management and things have gone through it in their careers. It's very, very rare you never get dropped or not selected. So I think for him, it's, you know, he's young, isn't he, in terms of he's burst onto the scene. He's, you know, an incredible talent and is, you know, a real poster boy for Wales, isn't he? But it's just about, for him, I say, look, you're a young guy and you've got tons and tons of time to bounce back. And, you know, I don't think anybody is thinking this is the end for him at all. At 21, he's got, you know, years and years left in him. So he'll bounce back, no doubt, and wouldn't surprise me to see him have an absolute stormer for Gloucester this weekend.
when you've been, perhaps on the receiving end of something like this, does it serve as motivation for you if you ever had to go back to the Ospreys or whatever? Were you looking to be like, right, this is an opportunity to make a statement here?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sort of say that it's not disappointing, because it does hurt, Matt, at the end of the day when you're not selected or someone else is preferred to you. So it does hurt. That's the first thing that needs to be said. But it does act as a real motivation to prove wrong. And I think you've got to have that in your character. And I've said that to him. You don't want to be sulking about it for too long. And he won't. He's a great lad, and he's got a brilliant head on his shoulders. And I'm sure that he's got a big game this weekend for Gloucester as well, and I'm sure it'll do him the world of good to get some game time and like I said, showcase his talents, because he's an extremely talented boy who's got a huge future, and I'm sure this is just a little blip for him and he'll be fine.
Thanks, Dan. Good luck.
Cheers, Matt.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ryan.
Hi, Nick.
Must be nice for people not to be talking about the front row selection in Wales this campaign. It's just, there we are. We all expect those three to play again. He must be doing something right.
Yeah, it is nice, to be fair. We've had two the first two games, Ireland and Scotland. I'd say we're pretty happy with where we've been at. But hopefully now we know England's going to be a different test, scrum time especially. So we've got to front up again and hopefully go up another gear.
Tell us about the English front row you'll be facing then. What do you expect from them?
Yeah, obviously they're good scrummagers. They're also very good around the park as well. Good carriers, good in defence. So it's a big challenge. I think for us it's just the case of concentrating on what we've been good at and trying to implement that against them. I'd like to say we scrummage pretty fairly and want to keep scrums up and want to paint positive pictures. So I'm hoping come Saturday we can get something out of it.
You expecting any little tricks out of your opponents then?
Well, you expect it most weeks, to be honest with you. That's just the way the game's gone. I'll fully expect a few to go to ground. But yeah, nothing out of the ordinary, I wouldn't say.
In terms of the line-outs, Wales have got Talupe Faletau back as a jumping option. England have got Courtney Laws back in their back row as captain. Tell us about the impact that those two players could make.
Yeah, well, obviously two quality players. So, yeah, no, it's for us. We're just concentrating on hopefully kicking on from where we left off against Scotland. Hopefully building on that. I thought we had a good day at the office there, but as I said earlier, England, they're a very, very good pack. They got world-class operators throughout their pack. So, we're under no illusion. We know it's going to be a step up and another tough test. But one we are, really looking forward to.
Yeah, there's not that many of you who've won at Twickenham in a Wales shirt. What about the atmosphere then? Is it as important to England as maybe the Principality Stadium is to Cardiff these days?
Yeah, well, it's obviously a tough place to go. I can't remember I'm not certain when the last time we won up there was, to be honest with you, and I've only
2015. Ask Thomas Francis about it.
2015, there were. Well,
World Cup.
It's been a while, isn't it? So, looking forward to the challenge. It's one of them things. For myself, I've only played up there the once, I think, back in 2020, just before COVID hit. I came on off the bench for maybe 10 minutes at the end. So it's a different ball game for me. Getting a start this weekend and experience what it's all about, and hopefully get to take a bit of it in.
Yeah, you mentioned COVID. That was the last game in front of full crowds. glad to think from the players' point of view that you're coming back towards normality with crowds expected or crowds in the whole championship after a troublesome couple of years?
Yeah, it's to be honest with you, it's great having the crowds back. There's just way more of a buzz. Well, obviously, there's just especially when we play at home, it's just electric there. Singing the anthem is special. All them things you dreamt about when you were a young child, you're getting to experience them things now. The last year and a half, say, it has been tough, and I think as a team we probably struggled without the crowds, particularly at home. So yeah, just looking forward to it, and hopefully the crowd can play its part on the weekend. And
in terms of your own role in the team, do you feel now, a set part of the team? Because obviously Ken Owens has been number one for several years previous to his injury.
Yeah, well, for me, I just look at it, I just take it game by game. I'm always, delighted when I get to start in the number 2 jersey. And run out, sing the anthem, and I just take it game by game, because I know what I've been through to try and get here. So it's just about appreciating my time in the jersey and realising how special it is. So yeah, I am enjoying it, and hopefully I can keep it for a little bit longer. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
And then Nick Mullins.
Hey Ryan, thanks very much for your time. Dan Biggar was saying a little earlier that he's still looking for a couple of tickets. Have you managed to get plenty for your family and friends? You have mates down there?
No, it was quite tricky for this game to get the tickets. I've managed to get 5, so I guess I'm one of the lucky ones. But yeah, well, it kind of tells you that there's probably going to be a full house down there, and the stadium's going to be bouncing.
Who gets your 5 tickets?
The wife, mum and the dad, and the sister-in-law and her partner. So there's a few people missed out.
How do you, with all the emotion that's going around this week and that you'll have, particularly as you run out and sing the anthems on Saturday, how do you use that emotion positively? Do you have to control it at any point?
Oh yeah, you definitely have to control it. You don't really want to get too carried away, but at the same time, it's a special feeling, and you got to take it in as well. For me, whenever I'm singing the anthem, I tend to think about my family, and the sort of, I guess, obviously it's not a long time, but I just take a moment to try and reflect on what it kind of was taking me to get to that point. But again, yeah, trying not to get too carried away, because obviously you're going to be playing a test match in a couple of minutes, so. Yeah, it's a funny one, but no, I really enjoy singing the anthem and getting the build up to the game.
Yeah, fantastic. Last one from me, if I can. That business of getting your heart rate down from 120 to whatever you need it to be to get the accuracy at the line out. Do you have techniques for doing that? How do you approach that?
Yeah, well, it can be tough at times when, well, you might have gone through a real tough, couple of minutes where it's been, two teams going at each other. It might have been a big defensive block or a big attacking block, and then obviously, you want to get to the line out. It's just the case of, for me, taking 3 or 4 big deep breaths, and then, as you say, that does kind of hopefully bring your heart rate down. But it's just something you try and implement in training, because obviously we train at a high intensity as well. So it's you get plenty of reps to try and work on that. But yeah, it's something I have had to work on, and the key is just breathe in, try and catch your breath as quick as you can and control your heart rate. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Play well.
Cheers, Nick. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Alex.
Hi, Ryan. Both Dan and Wayne have talked about, starting well, which is, you did that. You didn't do that in Ireland. You did it in Scotland, and sort of look what happened. What have you sort of talked about as a squad, that how you can get and do that difficult place like Twickenham?
Yeah, well, obviously early on against in the last game Scotland, we went through probably 10-15 minutes of defending in our 22 for large parts. I guess it's just the case of the game management side of things to begin with, playing in the right areas. But if you are in a defensive block, it's just the case of trusting the systems and starting with a bang. Obviously, England very physical. They're renowned for being physical, and their game management and things. It's just a case of trying to be physical and shut them down early. They're big guys. Try not to let them get into the game too early. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll do one final question in English with Daniel Gallen, and then move to a few minutes in Welsh.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Ryan. I'd love to know what this match means to you emotionally. Big test all around the world, Lions tours, games against the Springboks, All Blacks, etc. But for you growing up as a fan in Wales, Dan said it's just another game for the players. I wonder what it meant to you.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer really, because on one side of the coin you do try and treat it as just an ordinary sort of game, but at the same time, I can remember being a kid growing up, watching Wales, England, up in my auntie's house where all the family would gather and watch it, and then I'd be out the back after the game playing rugby against my cousins, and I can picture that like it was yesterday. And it's quite surreal if you allow yourself to think about it, to think, well, I'm actually going to be doing that this weekend, getting a start and go up against our old enemy. So you've got to balance it. I do like playing with a bit of emotion because of the position you're in. It's quite confrontational, scrum time, round the park, the nitty-gritty sort of stuff. But at the same time, you've got to try and remember it is just a game and not get too carried away and lose your head, I guess.